Very good day to you and welcome to the Game Changer program, proudly brought to you by the Forum for African Women Zimbabwe. And today we are celebrating or commemorating actually the International Youth Day. And of course, this year's theme is From Clicks to Progress, Youth Digital Pathways for Sustainable Development. We're going to be asking the key questions around the opportunities and the challenges and what this theme actually means as we are in this digital age. The Forum for African Women Zimbabwe, affiliated with the Forum for African Women Educationalists, is dedicated to championing gender equity and equality in education across Zimbabwe. And it's quite interesting that digitalization is definitely transforming the world. I'm sure most of you are watching me live from wherever you are in the world, and that's the beauty of digital. Young people are leading the change in digital adoption and innovation, and in Zimbabwe, it seems that this presents a unique landscape for digital inclusion while boasting over 14 million mobile subscriptions and an internet penetration rate of 73.3%. And this is according to the Post and Telecommunications. But you know, I'm not the expert here. And to join me for this conversation, I have with me the FAWEZI Programs Manager, Ngobile Nkiwane, and of course, Caroline Chadzimura, who's an ICT lecturer, to take us through some of these opportunities, but also looking at the realities that we have on the ground. Thank you so much, Ngobile and Caroline, for joining me as our game changers today. So we are looking at the theme for International Youth Day, From Clicks to Progress, Youth Digital Pathways for Sustainable Development. I'll start with you, Ngobile. What does this theme mean to you?
Thank you, Unique. So this theme, basically for us as FAWEZI, it brings to light the fact that technology is not just about clicking, it's not just about having gadgets, it's not about just being online, but it's about making those clicks count.
Right.
It's for us having the youth being able to use, be it an electrical gadget, be it a platform, to be able to come up with solutions for sustainable development in the future. So we encourage the young men and women of today to be able to do something meaningful with internet gadgets, be it a camera. There are many opportunities which they can harness and make a living out of it and contribute to sustainable development even for the country. So it's really about what can the youth do in terms of harnessing ICT to make a meaningful contribution.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Ngobile. And Caroline, you being passionate about education, this theme leading to digital pathways for sustainable development, what are your thoughts about this year's theme?
Oh, this year's theme is something which is very, very interesting, right? There are so many things that we can do from the education side, but with this digital era that we have, we are just digging from the digital bucket, and we can't do without the digital skills. So we are saying to the youth out there, there are so many opportunities that you can enhance, that you can venture into with the use of these digital skills that we have. So besides just doing some ordinary clicks, there are so many opportunities, the techno-entrepreneurship, the globalization, collaboration, which is global. So to the young ladies, to the girls, to the youth out there, we are in the 21st century. The in thing is the digital. We need these skills every day.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Caroline. So before we get into why we're talking about digital linking to sustainable development, tell me, Ngobile, why is FAWEZI so passionate about this year's theme and young people and it linking to education?
Okay. So as an organization, we've realized that mainly we focus on girls.
Yeah.
And you realize that sometimes they shy away when it comes to issues of ICT, issues of science and technology. So this theme for us is a chance to reach out to mainly the girls who are in high school, who are in tertiary, to also take up such careers and be able to contribute to innovation. You realize that even the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education is pushing a strategic plan focusing on issues of STEM and ICT and innovation. So we want to contribute to that through our activities to say we will support these girls to also demystify the area of using gadgets.
Yeah.
You remember even while back previously, you would only see the boys, the males, carrying the cameras, accessing the internet, leading in STEM. But for us, we are saying from clicks to progress, it also must apply to the girls. It must apply to the learners who are coming from the hard-to-reach areas. So of interest is really trying to say, we want to advocate for access to electricity, access to solar systems, to ICT, to those learners, young women and men who are in the hard-to-reach areas. So we have a program that we are running that will be supporting young men and women from marginalized communities to access tertiary education. And when we get those people into the schools, we are encouraging them to take up STEM subjects so that they can also contribute to sustainability, like you said.
That's fantastic. Caroline, you being an ICT lecturer, let's talk a little bit about how digital technology is reshaping the landscape of youth empowerment.
Wow, thank you very much. Digital technologies is reshaping a lot in terms of how the youth communicate, how they have their entertainment, how they develop their entrepreneurship, how they communicate, how they meet. Though at times we need to look at it from the parent point of view. We need to have parental support. Charity begins at home. So each time when we do our educational programs, we need to dig deeper first from the parents. Then we develop to the school, then to the tertiary level. And we are saying for us to reshape how the youth do, we need to skill them up in terms of their digital skills. And at times we face challenges with the digital divide. Like she said earlier on, we need to create some digital hubs so that our youth, our ladies, girls, they have access to the resources, they have access to connectivity, they have access to the devices so that they can embrace the skills, the digital skills for sustainable development.
I think it's quite interesting, Nobile, that Caroline is talking about charity beginning at home. And she mentions parents. And I remember you guys gracefully inviting me for an event in Bindura. And it was almost as if parents need to be educated first as the gatekeepers, or the gatekeepers within the community need to be educated first so that they can then trickle down that knowledge to young people. Where do we have a challenge or a gap here in terms of, you know, the older generation not actually understanding the importance of how, you know, digitalization will change the face of sustainable development?
I would like to say there is a gap and there is misconception, because you realize that depending on the community, a phone, as an example, can be viewed in many different ways. Digital platforms can be viewed by people differently. So you see that the elder parents, some of them never had access to a phone, and some of them think that's where all the evil begins. But there is awareness in terms of how best to be safe when you're using a phone, how best to be safe in the digital space. So there is need for teachers to also catch up, parents to also catch up, because you'd hear even learners saying sometimes a child can have a phone with an icon, maybe of a calculator, but behind that icon, there's something different. So parents need to be made aware of what are the benefits of being on a digital space for a child, what works, how can a family or a youth make money out of that, how can somebody contribute, how can they come up with innovative ideas through using digital technologies. So realize that there is indeed a gap in terms of generations. Things are changing, there's globalization, and the youth of today, for those who have access, those who are fortunate enough, they are way ahead. But there is also a crop of youth who have never seen or held a personal gadget. So those gaps are there, age-wise, and also the geographical divide of access.
Caroline, let's talk a little bit about you in the classroom or in the lecture room.
Okay.
Looking at some of the key challenges or opportunities in leveraging digital technology for youth development. What are some of these challenges that you face within your lecture room?
Number one is phobia, fear to operate a gadget due to maybe difference in backgrounds.
Right.
Yeah. So we try to make sure we reach a certain level of access.
Right.
Trying to give them maybe some introduction skills so that at least we can leverage their digital skills. But there are issues like attitude, especially for the girl child. Yeah, the way we grow up, some families, they still have a belief that this is a boyish, mannish program.
Yeah.
They are challenging tasks, challenging programs, challenging questions, so they relate to boy child. So we are still having some challenge with the girl child, trying to remove that phobia, trying to drive the positive attitude. So we are trying to do some online trainings.
Right.
Yes, and make sure we've got digital equality, digital equity, so that those girls, they feel part of. They take, for example, when I did my first program in ICT, I had never made computers before. It was my first time.
Yeah.
I had applied for another program. Then they realized that I don't qualify. Then by virtue, they said, you can only go to computer science. That's how I became an ICT lecturer.
Right.
That's my background.
Right.
So upon enrolling in that program, I was the first person every day to be on the computer lab. But I will be the last to get in the computer lab because of phobia. I didn't have exposure whatsoever from my background.
Yeah.
So it took me time, but I would like to appreciate my lecturer. She realized that. She took me, we had the counseling session, then I realized I have to move towards taking the lead.
Yeah.
So to the girls out there, your background doesn't matter. What you have doesn't matter. It's your attitude that should drive you to having these digital skills, using them and having the know-how. So in the classroom, we also face those challenges that even if you try to nurture, try to squeeze, try to rub a student to love computers, they still look back at their background, especially the youth, especially the girl child. So to the girl child out there, I'm saying, it's never too late. Take a move. We are in the digital era. We have to, and we have to. So up to now, I'm a guru in that area.
Yeah, I think your story is very inspiring. You know, from a woman who had phobia, or a young girl who had phobia, to actually becoming an ICT lecturer. I think that's an amazing story.
Thank you.
But as we round off this segment, let's talk a little bit about how digital literacy can effectively be integrated into the education systems to prepare young people for the digital age. Because obviously, the phobia is coming from a background where you're not native to digital. But, you know, from my experience, from the Bindura experience with FAWEZI, these young people are being born in a digital age, yet most of them don't have access. How do we manage this challenge?
For me, I'll say the earlier, the better. Yes, if we could have our education system embracing this digitalization, as from ECD, as from primary school, secondary school, electrifying those rural schools is something that will work. Because you realize that these children, like you are saying, they are born in a digital era. And you realize that even in the families, if a child gets hold of a phone, they operate that phone. But it's about having access to the same gadget every day. So we need to improve our quality of education through the infusion of digitalization into the classroom as from an early age. And this can only also come when we have adequate resources focusing on the education sector. So yes, the earlier, the better. When a child grows, knowing that this is a laptop, this is a mouse. When they get to tertiary, it's easy to pick a career under the digital aspect.
As Ngobile is saying, the earlier, the better. And Caroline, what are your last words in this segment?
Okay. Inclusivity in terms of digitalization, representation of those students who need access, who need a hand. For example, the visually impaired. Do we have the software to cater for them? Are we including everyone? Or we are just saying digital skills, yet we are leaving a group behind? So curriculum development, the inclusion of digital skills into the curriculum. The online trainings for the teachers themselves, the classroom managers, they need to be equipped so that they remove that phobia. They do have the phobia, by the way. Some of them, they realize they use this technology by virtue of being in the classroom. So they still need that gap. They trained well before the inclusion of these digital skills. So they need to embrace, they need to skill up. So that when they deliver, they enhance, they use the digital skills in the teaching and learning. So the students that we have, they are coming from the diverse environments. So we need to have an inclusive curriculum which calls for the use of the digital. We need to have equity, equality, so that we leave no one behind. Yeah. We should be drinking in the digital bucket as a nation. We don't need to leave anyone behind in terms of digital. Like we used to do during the COVID era. We conquered COVID. Why? We were having media singing songs, awareness. So we advocate that we should do the digital mainstreaming, whereby we are singing, we are talking, we are dressing, we are eating digitals, so that it becomes the talk of the day. So it's our duty as girls, it's our duty as youth there, that we appreciate technology when we are in it. Right. We can't just talk of digital technologies, digital innovation, yet we are just staring at it. How do we get into there? Let's get trained so that we have the grasp. We are in it. So even the lecturers, the teachers, the classroom practitioners, we don't just implement, we start from the inner man, from within. Thank you very much.
Leaving no one behind as we continue our conversation, as we're commemorating the International Youth Day. From clicks to progress, youth digital pathways for sustainable development. On this first segment, I had Nobile Nkiwane from FAWEZI, who's the program's manager, and Caroline Chadzimura, who's an ICT lecturer, a girl who had phobia, and now she's a lecturer. Quite an inspiring story. But stay with us after the short break. We'll continue this conversation as we ask the key question: what role does digital technology play in bringing or bridging the gap between rural and urban youth? We'll be right back.
Hey everybody, my name is Taf and I am your host every Tuesday at 2 p.m. for Mental Health Watch Show, where we discuss everything mental health. And you know what? We make it so simple. We break down the big terms and make it palatable for you and I to understand, and so as much as to reduce the stigma. So do join us every Tuesday at 2 p.m. You know the place to be. It's Mental Health Watch on Heart and Soul.
Welcome back to the Game Changer program, proudly brought to you by the Forum for African Women Zimbabwe. And of course, today we're commemorating the International Youth Day, focusing on the theme from clicks to progress, youth digital pathways for sustainable development. Just before the break, we were talking a little bit about what this year's theme means to Nobile and of course Caroline, but also looking at some of the challenges within our homes and within the work environment and the learning environment for the young woman to be able to progress within these digital spaces. Well, right now with me, I have the FAWEZI alumni chairperson, Wendy Muzite, and Caroline, and Dion Kaduru, who is the Junior Systems Release Analyst. I was just telling her off the record that I don't even know what that is. But I'm very proud to have, a young woman who's a Junior System Release Analyst, and she'll explain a little bit what that is. Welcome, ladies. How are you today?
Very good, thank you.
That's fantastic. So first of all, what is a Junior Systems Release Analyst?
Okay, so I work in a financial institution, and as you know, through the digital age, we have lots of products that are coming in, lots of digital products that are coming in, and you need somebody who's going to manage those products in the live production rather than after the developers have developed the product.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. Go girl. Yes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what role digital technology plays in bridging the gap between rural and urban youth. And I'll throw this question first to Wendy to talk a little bit about some of the challenges.
Okay. We cannot talk about challenges in terms of digitalization without first pointing out on the digital divide. Yeah. We've come to notice that majority of the youth who are in the urban to peri-urban settings are mostly the ones who are mainly benefiting from digitalization and everything that it comes along with. Yeah. But when it comes to majority of the youth who are deep into the rural areas, they are missing out on a lot of that. So that is our major challenge. on the digital divide. And then in terms of technology, we have so many institutions and so many schools that are in the urban areas, but also within the rural settings, they do not have the same facilities. So which means now they're missing out on what they should be benefiting on. They do not have access to electricity. They do not have access to laptops, access to even basic computers.
Yeah.
So now this becomes a challenge, because when you don't have a majority of something that can be adding value to what you're supposed to be doing, it means now in terms of the skills, they become, you know, very few. You can't even be, you know, using them in ways you're supposed to be using them. So we have digital divide, and then the skills now, that becomes a challenge. Yeah.
It's quite interesting, Dion, that going back to the theme, we're focusing on digital pathways for sustainable development, you know, and I've been pondering on, you know, how can digital play a key role in sustainable development? Let's talk a little bit about, for example, some of the challenges, real-time challenges we're facing right now, such as climate change, poverty, and inequality. How can digital innovation contribute to address some of these challenges?
All right, thank you for that one. It's something that I'm actually very passionate about, because you realize that in first world countries, they are making they're making ways for people who bring solutions and innovations to solve those problems. They're giving a platform for them to thrive and to succeed and to get mentorship and assistance for the products that they're bringing in. But then you'll find that in third world countries, and particularly in Zimbabwe, it's a bit more of a challenge to get the funding and to get the support that you need in terms of providing the solutions to innovations that some people may have. So it's also a matter of looking at the potential that's within the youths, looking at the solutions that they're bringing in, and providing the support and the mentorship and the funding so that those solutions can come in and be used in the real world.
That's interesting, you know, using digital to actually address the challenges. And we have, Wendy, a serious challenge in terms of the third world countries, as Dion is saying, that when young people are not getting as much support within the digital sector to actually be able to flourish. Where's the challenge there?
Okay, like I mentioned before, we have unequal access in terms of digitalization. That is our major challenge. So at the end of the day, in terms of the skills, in terms of engagement, we end up being shortchanged as young people. And then that again as a challenge, we have the access in terms of digital technology. And then there comes another major challenge as young people. We then are, you know, cyberbullied. We come across all types of cyber risk in terms of that. So it brings about that fear factor again. Yes, I want to be, in as much as I can be skilled in terms of digital technology, in terms of everything that I need to be empowered of on e-learning, on e-platforms and everything. But then the risks that are coming with that now can make me take a step back. I think that's something that we also need to look at and address.
You know, talking about cyberbullying, and you know, we've been talking about digital etiquette. You know how ladies are taught etiquette, like how do you sit, how do you know, hold your handbag and all of that. But it seems as if, as you said, there's a missing link between how people, yes, can have access to all these digital platforms, but how do you carefully use these platforms so that, you know, you don't get bullied or, you know, you don't get in trouble. Dion, let's talk about some of the ethical implications. Yes, we have access to all these amazing platforms. We can now work online for a country, you know, that's 5,000 miles away and all of that. But looking at some of the ethical implications of using digital technology, how can we manage these ethical implications, especially looking at sustainable development?
Okay. Looking at sustainable development and also looking at our youth, because you'll notice that what happens is that a lot of them are then fall victim through the digital space, because they do not know some of the rules, they do not know some of the implications of the things that they're posting online. So you'll find that we need to be aware and to educate the youth that in as much as this year's theme is from clicks to progress, those clicks need to count, because it's not everybody who's online whose intentions are pure, and it's not everybody who's there who wants the best for you. So first of all, you need to make sure that you take note of the content that you're posting online. You take note of the people you're engaging with online, and also that you're aware of the impact that you're making with other people as you relate with them online. Yes.
I think that's very, very important. And of course, looking at sustainable development, you need to be looking at what sort of contribution you're making in this world to, you know, sustainably develop through digital platforms. Lastly, let's talk a little bit about strategies that FAWEZI has been using as a FAWEZI alumni to enhance digital inclusion, especially for young women in low-income communities.
Okay, the FAWEZI alumni operates under certain areas. So these areas mainly are professional development, we have mentorship, we have volunteering, we have giving back, and we have resource mobilization. So we have young women and men who benefited from the interventions of FAWEZI, who are now coming back. And some of these young men and women are not in Zimbabwe. They are all over. And sometimes we're talking about the alumni that is not only in Zimbabwe, but even the regional alumni. So which means now in terms of our efforts in advocacy, they are trying now to advocate for young people to have access to digital resources in schools. They are advocating for access to, you know, e-tools online. And even in schools, we are trying to work in as much as we can in building partnerships with other like-minded organizations, so that we can then be cascading these skills that we already have within our alumni to be put into the schools. But then how do we then cascade them into, you know, these platforms? Is the use of online. We are not always in the same place at the same time. So we are trying as much as we can to, you know, close even the digital gap, the digital divide in the places we might be. So in terms of us as our work as alumni, we are mainly onto the mentorship programs in terms of digital, in terms of technology, in terms of online learning. Right now, students can, if you noticed, when students write their exams, they can access them through portals. So it's something that we are trying to do as the alumni, you know, trying to mentor people into knowing how to access these platforms. Because sometimes I can be knowing that those platforms are there, but I do not know how to use them. So that is where we are coming in as the alumni now. That's trying fantastic. To help as much as we can, giving our skills, you know, to those that will need them.
That's great. Dion, as a young woman already in the digital space, what are some of the strategies that, you know, young women or institutions such as FAWEZI can actually use to enhance digital inclusion?
All right, thank you for that one. I think starting off this show, having this segment in the first place is one step in the positive direction. So having more of these, I think we need to demystify tech, or rather we need to demystify moving into digital solutions as something that is impossible or hard or needing too much of an effort. Because what we first need to do is to show the youth that it's something that they can achieve. So you find that with FAWEZI, they've had a lot of STEM-related projects that I've had the privilege to participate in, and going into low-income communities and showing them that I'm also somebody who's into technology and using technology for bringing, you know, income and bringing solutions to the world and the space that I'm in. So it's a matter of showing them that it can be done. That's one. And two, showing them that it's not something that's too far out of reach. Because like Wendy said, with that digital divide, not only is it physical, it's also mental, because someone will have to convince themselves first that it's something that they can also achieve. So strategies like that, like the mentorship and having the community outreaches, as well as showing more people, putting it in more platforms, that youths and women can also excel in the digital space.
Hello world, my name is Caleb Lunga, and commemorating this year's International Youth Day, which says from clicks to progress. I would like to say we've gained a lot of knowledge using our digital devices, because I could say from banking to socialization to business, the COVID era just enhanced our digitalization in the world. Anything can be done digitally, and it has been helping us so far. Even if you don't go to school, if you have a digital device on you, you can easily access education from beyond the scopes, because everything is now there, from maths, algebra, from physics, from advanced English languages, Chinese, and everything we've been learning through our digital devices. And would like to appreciate and enhance this digitalization and bring forth the change in this world as youth, so that we may progress using our digital devices, since our theme is saying from clicks to progress. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Joyce Tikiti, and celebrating this year's International Youth Day, running under the theme Click to Progress, Youth Digital Pathways for Sustainable Development. What this theme celebrates is the global digitalization of the world. We have seen technology improving the lives of different people, but it has enabled global connectivity, where we are actually able to access anywhere and everyone in different parts of the world. We've actually been able to access information in different places. The introduction of technology has actually enabled us to work remotely. Nowadays, we don't have to work or go in for work to 9 to 5, but actually work remotely in the comfort of our own places. However, with the introduction of technology, as much as it has its pros, it also has its cons. Technology has actually automated a lot of jobs, increasing the high rates of unemployment in the world. It has led to isolation. Nowadays, people prefer the comfort of their own gadgets from spending time with friends and family. We've also seen over-dependence on technology. Nowadays, people don't really focus on their skill set or what they can offer, but nowadays they just prefer using artificial intelligence to do most of their works and most of their jobs for them.
As a youth, I've benefited quite remarkably from the digital spaces. I am now able to occupy spaces which were only enshrined to a certain group of people, like the clergy, those who are rich, and all kinds of other people who were privileged in life. But now, with coming of digitalization, we've been brought under one roof, where people can engage, exchange ideas, learn on the digital space, do certain things that could only be done by a privileged people. So basically, that's some of the things that I've actually learned and brought about by the coming in of digitalization. However, to this side of the sub-Saharan, we are still having challenges in terms of accessing data. Data is still expensive.
And of course, that rounds off our program, our Game Changer program, as on our second segment, our Game Changers, with Dion Karuru, who is a junior system release analyst, and Wendy Muzite, who is the FAWEZI alumni chairperson, as we were talking about the role that digital technology can play in bridging the gap between rural and urban youth. And of course, we were focusing on the theme from clicks to progress. How do we move from just clicking on the internet, but actually using digital to play a key role in sustainable development? Remember, this program was proudly brought to you by the Forum for African Women Zimbabwe, and we'll see you next time.